Welcome back to the macabre month of horror. Today's review is for Peter Strickland's In Fabric.
The dress is your image, onto what you project through an illusion.
I'm just going on a date. I don't normally wear this kind of thing.
Be bold. Your date will compliment you.
If you're new to the channel, then consider subscribing for more horror content all month long. The name Peter Strickland may already be familiar to horror fans. His film Berberian Sound Studio has a pretty loyal fan base. I didn't love Berberian Sound Studio, but I liked it well enough to be excited when seeing his name attached to In Fabric, an A24 horror film. And I'm usually on board for anything A24. In Fabric is essentially a haunted item film. But there's a lot more going on with it. It's also a comedy, a period piece, a genre tribute, a satire on consumerism. There's plenty left to analyze and interpret by the time this film has come to a close.
I would like you to announce the numbers to your telephone.
01632 960 7
And 7,
8
and 8,
6
and 6, and stop.
I was loving In Fabric early on. I admire how bold certain decisions were, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't pulled out of the story and left feeling a little cold at points at the same time. I was confused in both good and bad ways throughout my viewing. Stylistically speaking, In Fabric is wonderful through and through. The colors, music, atmosphere, editing, and dreamy elements are all excellent. It's a pitch-perfect Dario Argento tribute while still having its own voice. It doesn't feel too much like a copycat. I've seen a lot of people calling In Fabric a tribute or homage to the giallo genre, but I have to object to that. In Fabric is definitely not a giallo film. It's not a modern tribute to giallo films in general in the way that films like Let the Corpses Tan or Knife Plus Heart are. In Fabric is specifically Dario Argento flavored. Suspiria in particular, if you want to single out an individual film. The performances are great across the board, especially those from Marianne Jean-Baptiste and Sidney Babbitt Knudsen. The former is also excellent in Mike Leigh's Secrets and Lies, if you want to check her out in something else. Story-wise, I felt the need to ruminate on this one a bit, so I waited a while after watching before making my review. My gut reaction was a dislike for the way certain plot elements were handled, but I wanted to give Peter Strickland the benefit of the doubt and believe that there was more purpose to those decisions than what was immediately apparent. There's a clear division midway through the plot that at first comes as a welcome surprise, but then it also makes a number of plot threads from earlier on feel wholly unnecessary upon reflection, as they do not reach any sort of culmination. The surprise angle of this shift worked, but I'm not sure if it was worth what was left behind. There are a bunch of characters left behind with no closure, and it makes their implied importance feel either incomplete or manipulative at worst. For example, we spend a great deal of time with the son and his girlfriend, only for them to become completely irrelevant to the film halfway through. Many of their scenes feel wholly unnecessary when looking back at them. It's hard to do a major shift like this without the film feeling disjointed. And that is how it feels here, disjointed. I was far less invested in the second half of the film and the second set of characters that were introduced. The performances are still good, the characters are interesting, but it's such a hard reset that it would take some real winning over to get me fully invested again. And In Fabric didn't quite pull it off for me.
Such a pretty dress.
While there is comedy throughout the first half of the film, I feel like it struck a good balance between comedy and horror with a great sense of atmosphere, whereas the comedy seemed to greatly overpower the horror elements in the second half.
I wanted to wave at my little girl, but she wasn't having it. She made it clear that I should sling my hook.
I'm not sure whether this was intentional or not. I'd lean towards yes, it is intentional, and to be fair, the comedy all landed. I was laughing a fair bit throughout the second half, but I was definitely missing the more effective horror vibes that I was getting earlier. It's not that the horror disappears entirely. It's still there, possibly to a lesser degree, and certainly to a less effective degree, barring a few creative visuals and editing choices. My enjoyment level may have diminished over the course of my viewing, but I was really vibing with it early on. Everything about the presentation was working for me, and I can easily recommend In Fabric for the first half at the very least. And there is plenty to enjoy in the second half as well, just maybe to a lesser extent. I mentioned the music briefly earlier, but I need to hit on it again. The music is truly excellent and perfectly fitting given the Dario Argento vibes. The score by Cavern of Antimatter is badass and perfectly evokes the all-time great film scores of Goblin while still feeling like their own distinct pieces of work. In Fabric is a film that I would happily watch again. I could see my opinion on the film warming or cooling upon rewatch. As it stands, I think it lands pretty cleanly on the positive side. But if you've seen In Fabric, let me know in the comments what you thought, especially about the nature of the midpoint plot shift. And if you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hang around here for more horror content coming out all month long. Thanks for watching. Bye.